So I just got up to get myself water, and I was thinking about Tess meets her doppelgangers, and I gotta say, I feel like the doppelganger portion of this story is one of those ones that I'm gonna be sitting there thinking about for a really long time, like on and off, just because like it definitely makes you think like one wrong move for Tess, one different decision, her life would be so different, right? She wouldn't be Tess. She wouldn't be our Tess. And like we met 3 other versions and I didn't like any of the other versions. Tess didn't like any of the other versions because they weren't her. And it's like sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in like, oh, if only I had made like this decision. If only I had done this differently. And it's like I've thought about what if Tess found out about Auntie's duplicity earlier on and dealt with it? Well, she could have become, you know, the zealot version of Tess, which would be weird and not like her at all. Or what happens if Tess didn't have anybody to guide her and everybody was lost and she was just rogue trader by default? She could have been cunning. Like I liked parts of that Tess, right? I liked parts of the egocentric Tess. I liked parts of the zealot Tess. I even liked parts of the batshit crazy evil Tess. But none of them were her. And it goes to show that, oh, if I had done this different, if I had done that different, well, maybe it would have worked out in the short term, but in the long term, would you have liked who you are? Would you like where you ended up? And we don't know. And it's a fun thing to, not fun, but you know what I mean? Like it's an interesting thing to sit there and think about. And what I love most about this game is I know my personal reactions probably in this Let's Play haven't shown that quite as much just because like sometimes it's, or I should say this game, it's not what happens in the moment. It's what it makes you think when you're when you're done playing. And like, while I have had like obvious reactions and stuff like that, like there have been definitely moments where I've been falling asleep at night and I've been like, wait, that's what they were saying in the game. Or wait, this is what this could have been. Or wait, this is what this meant. Or I went up to get water and it's like, wait, the doppelganger storyline was more. Or it could be more. Or you could take it at surface level. And this game time and time and time again shows how you can take it at surface level or you could keep digging through the layers. And I love that. That's why I love Owlcat games. So Wrath of Righteous was like that. Kingmaker was like that. Like there is not a bad, like I will die on the hill that there is no bad Owlcat game to date. And that just makes me very excited for the future of Owlcat games because
I'll lay claim to the stars.
I mean, Base Rogue Trader is an incredible game. But then when you add Cabela's DLC, like, holy Lord, God Emperor shit. Like, Cabela's DLC, and it's not just like Cabela, though. Like, that's what still gets me about this game, is it's not just Cabela. It's how Cabela and the whole storyline of the Bloodspun Web wove into the base game. It's the dude that we had to kill, right? The Infernus Master. The way that whole thing went down, the way you could flirt with him, the way that you could actually start to try to understand him, and then the way we killed him was so incredible. Like, now that we are at the end of this game, I've been thinking about all my favorite moments. Like, it's something that not even just recording, it's just thinking about it. I mean, this game literally lives in my brain rent-free. But, like, I can't wait to re-explore with you, like here and also on stream, because once the next DLC launches, I plan to do like full run on stream, another full run on YouTube because I have a problem. But it's the way that I'm so looking forward to when they tried to kidnap Pascal from us, right? When we got boarded and had to deal with that. I'm looking forward to finding Abel again. I'm looking forward to Nomos again and like re-seeing that all. I'm looking forward to seeing how Cabela's story is interwoven into the entirety of the game instead of like boom, 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 like we experienced before. Or the new companion, how his story is woven throughout the course of the game instead of like boom, 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 boom kind of thing. How is that all gonna fit? How? And I'm like looking forward to the sitting at the table and doing the investigation from Cabela's DLC, or the whole Komorag storyline with Marzai and how that all just hits. And I'm looking forward to bringing new people to Comorag. Like, I'm probably going to leave Pascal behind. And I don't know who else. Well, Marzai won't be here. So my guess is it'll be Tess, Abelard, Argenta, Cabela, new person, but that's only 5. So I don't know who the 6th person will. Maybe Heinrich again, maybe not. I'm looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. So yeah, I don't know. This is a very special game, and it has been
a new challenge for me
since I first played the alpha, kind of thing. But what is this? Well, quick save. So thank you for coming on that tangent with me. I guess I can't. Okay, we're just watching that. Yes. I'm also looking forward to the exploration again. And actually, maybe, I don't know, call me crazy, doing the research stuff for the different, like, colonies. Like, actually, maybe doing the colony stuff. I don't know. I might actually try to do it. Can't guarantee it, though. Oh, okay. So this is just, like, we entered in now to where we had been. There he is. Inquisitor, Enforcer, Servants, Mystics. You all ready?
I won't tolerate weakness.
I see you did not heed my warnings, Tessera. Your decision to come here in spite of them may have consequences. But we still have a chance to turn it to everyone's advantage if your ladyship listens to me very carefully. With all due respect to you, Lord Inquisitor, I shall ask you to refrain from any further threats directed towards the blessed rogue trader, lest you face repercussions from me. Oh my god, Abelard coming in. How do you... I'm also really looking forward. I've played that so many times, but the Abelard Tess initial understanding of each other with, like, the riot and stuff like that, I'm looking forward to that. I'm even looking forward to that again, and I've played that 1,200 times. That's such a good storyline. How courteous of you to warn me, Master Rosarian. I'll remember your words. The line you are treading is dangerous, one Calcazar. Stop this madness. You're the one who's attempting something mad and dangerous by acting with insolence towards me. By the Emperor Tessera, I am in no mood to squabble with a rogue trader. Not even with your recently installed ladyship. Is that what you're here for? What is it? We call it a shard. And yes, as you have noted quite aptly, it is the reason I am here. This construct contains an ancient, or rather, a pre-ancient being of cosmic power. They were called the Satan. The entity is currently trying to escape, and I am here to collar it. Calcazar nods to the giant device, whose design clearly points to having been brought into the crypt from outside. Marzai half closes his eyes as if he has just heard something incredibly inane. Grand spires of stupidity and unfathomable depths of opportunity is a dangerous combination for a single monkey. Yeah, what is the shard? What is it doing here? A specimen of an ancient predator race, the devourer of pulsars who feasted on star systems. Reality itself bent to their power, but many millennia ago an ancient Xenos race managed to defeat them, shatter them into pieces, and lock them away in prisons like the one you see before you. And you think you stand a chance against it? Do you mean to say that a human is not capable of such a feat? I am not just a human. I am an instrument of the Emperor's will. Dear Lord, he's a zealot. Which I'd expect, but still. One of many. And the Imperium is omnipotent. Omnipotent? There we go. If I were to fail, another would follow in my footsteps. That is how humanity makes makes the impossible possible. At the hands of particular people in particular circumstances. Your skepticism is unwarranted. How is taming a creature help save the Imperium? Over my years of service, I have come to realize that the main problem that humanity faces in this war is the imbalance of power. Our opponents are not races or nations, but incomprehensible monsters. And it is high time we acquired one of our own. My yoke will bind this creature and make it a chained guard serving the Emperor. Here's something interesting. I have come to realize that the main problem that humanity faces is an imbalance of power. Our opponents are not races or nations, but incomprehensible monsters. You could say that, though, about person versus person, right? It's an imbalance of power. Tess and Calcazar facing off against each other are two monsters to each, like incomprehensible monsters, figuratively speaking. And I like the imagery of that. And then you bring Marzai, a Xenos, into this. Cabela of the Bloodspun Web. We have Pascal Argenta, Sister of Battle. Like, all of us here are, and Abelard too, none of us here are normal, average, everyday people. Every single person here, like between Tessa's retinue and Calcazar and whoever bigger people he brought, none of us are everyday humans. We're all incomprehensible monsters to each other, and the question is, who's the bigger monster to win this? That is not the full extent of my vision. There are other shards similar to this one scattered across the galaxy. I plan on seeking them out and confining them all inside the yoke. Each conquered monstrosity will bolster our defenses. Fear. I hear nothing but fear in your words. It was fear that made you believe that. His grace alone is not enough to stand against the rising tide of darkness. It was fear that convinced you to seek salvation in the abyss of Xenos filth. You're no guardian of the Imperium. You're just a greedy old coward. Oh, she's not wrong. And I love, by the way, that we have Cabela, DLC character, interjects here because she should. This is her territory. But, like, she's not wrong. If you believed in the God Emperor as hard as he's claiming that he does, if you are a devout follower of the God Emperor, you wouldn't need this shard. You wouldn't need a Xenos of incomprehensible power to help you. You wouldn't need to leash anything else to you. You have the God Emperor on your side. He's enough. And she's right. Like, you are seeking salvation in something that you have no right to seek salvation in, given who you are, what you believe in. You're a greedy old coward. And you could say the same thing about Theodora. At least I believe Theodora was a little bit more honest about it at the end of the day. But she was seeking the exact same thing, I'd wager. She wanted the exact same thing that Calcazar is after, and she would have killed him in the end to keep it. I have questions. Given the circumstances of our meeting, I do not see why I should hide anything. I seriously doubt you'll share this information with anyone else, for one reason or another. How did this end up in your possession? Thanks to your predecessor, I arrived in the Expanse at the call of the Explorator fleet, due to the Archmagos Amernat's heresy. I quickly came to the realization that the Koronus Expanse's problems ran much deeper than tech heresy. Unprecedented piracy running wild, blatant smuggling of Xenos artifacts, willful and impetuous rogue traders, and a growing threat of the ruinous powers. All this in a region that the Drakari consider their domain. Frankly, I considered purging the entire Expanse. It would have been much easier to burn down this whole tangle of threats and corruption, but the web of spies that I had woven presented me with a much more interesting and radical solutions. While investigating Amernat's connections, I turned my eye to Theodora von Valencius, who ultimately gave me the shard. How was Auntie involved? Theodora's instincts were uncanny. She spent decades hunting for a key that could open the dimensional gate, as if she knew that there was something incredible waiting for her on the other side. Her ladyship was lucky enough to discover the shard during one of her expeditions. A trophy that was too much for her to handle. Archmagos Amernat studied it on Theodora's behalf. But we know Amernat is a collective, so the collective studied it, crafting weapons in exchange for access to dangerous relics, but their research was too primitive and unambitious compared to their true power contained inside the shard. I had one of my own acolytes, Tanika, send her spies to Theodora. They infiltrated the rogue trader's retinue, earned their trust, and reported to me about this magnificent object. The rest was trivial. I seized Epitaph and laid down the conditions of our further coexistence. She was wise enough to concede defeat with dignity. I commenced Operation Precious Sentinel. I left a garrison on Epitaph, took the key to the dimensional gate from Theodora, sealed the gate, and started the creation of the yoke. I kept Theodora and her heirs in my sights, just in case. Not long before her death, I assigned Heinrich to her, ordered her to rendezvous with him on Rakad Minoris. But your ladyship inherited him instead. I admit, I wasn't aware of you. Theodora managed to keep her secret heir up her sleeve. So instead of eradicating Theodora's misdeeds, you chose to inherit them? Argenta's voice rings with righteous steel. Gritting his teeth, Abelard says quietly, in the old days, House von Valencius would have declared war over something like this, and fought until the offender was dead. Oh, we're still gonna do that! This isn't the old... We are in the old days, Abelard. Consider this the olden days. We are going to war. What is the yoke? A containment device similar to this one, except better. The yoke was devised by the brightest minds of two races using the ancient wisdom of a long-gone xeno-civilization. A person capable not only of holding the Satan shard, but also of controlling it while releasing fractions of its being. An instrument of obedience and destruction, a masterpiece whose creation required immense effort. It was made on Euphrates too. I captured Amernat's student Axomantha. She passed all of her mentor's drafts to me, and the one overseeing the process was none other than your acquaintance, the tech priest Cubus Delphum. His fall was regrettable. It seems that the unorthodox, daring things he did at my behest drove him to break his vow and sink into heresy. But the human mind could never have comprehended the shard alone. Thus, I appealed to the inhuman mind. I struck a deal with the Drakari. Theft of sacrament and secrets of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Registered. Inciting a devout tech priest to commit heresy. Registered. Blasphemous merging of sacred technologies with the forbidden ones. Registered. Further transgression registration discontinued. The drill on Pascal's mechadendrite screeches in fury. So you collaborated with the Drakari. Alas, the operation demanded it. Through the agents of one of my acolytes, Emelina, I contacted Archon Yemeris and made a pact. I gave her access to technologies contained within this relic and destroyed her rivals in the Cabal. She would relay information on their raids to my spies, and I would solve the problem. In exchange, her homunculus, Tervantius, forged the yoke for me. Of course, I did not let him near the shard itself, but rather set up a laboratory for him on Questa Temer. It was safer that way. All the pieces were contributing to my plan, but none had enough information to comprehend the entirety of it. So in the end, Marzai's smile is not his usual triumphant and scornful one. He looks almost tired. In the end, I was right about her and the monkey. I was right all along. Like, seeing how this all pieces together. Like, I've wondered for such a long time playing this game, how all of the different pieces, all the different stories were all going to tie in together. Because it just didn't, like, it's not that it didn't make sense, but it's like, how does Marzai fit into this? How does Pascal and the Amernat Collective, how does all of this fit in together? And well, the Lord Inquisitor saw the Koronus Expanse for the wild, wild west that it was gonna burn it, but instead found power that he could take for his own, like the greedy old man that he is, as Cabela said, and decided to leverage it. So then he found all the different linchpins in this wild west of a web that is the Koronus Expanse, and he tugged on each individual pin of it. He tugged and he tugged and he tugged until he had all of it, at least he thought, under his control. But what he didn't have was Tess. Tess is always the missing piece to his everything. He can't fully comprehend the picture because Tess was always that thing in the back of his mind that he didn't know existed, or like the thing out of the corner of his eye that he could kind of see but not at the same time. So it's just really interesting that it all would have worked. It all would have been fine if Tess didn't strike a deal with Marzai. If Tess didn't save Pascal. If Tess didn't defeat Conrad and the rest of them. If Tess didn't do this, if Tess didn't do that. And it's just so interesting that it all kind of boils down to it was one person. One person literally has come and potentially foiled everything for him. Why do the Drakari want the shard? It's one of the most complicated and perfect creations of a race much older than the Drakari. It's no mere object, but a treasure trove of technology. A wise master could uncover many secrets simply by observing. Nothing excuses. I mean, it was a sound strategy. Trust me, your ladyship, the threat of the alien pales in comparison to that posed by the ruinous powers. Yemeris could plunder 1,000 worlds, but she is no Earl on the Cruel. She was a great danger to her own kin, as she was to the Imperium. The disruption she caused among the Drakari was only to our benefit. She intended to trigger a powerful disjunction in Comorig, thereby destroying her rivals and elevating her own cabal in the process. Knowing full well how precarious her grand plan was, I made no attempt to talk her out of it. With a little luck, we wouldn't have need to worry about Comorig's influence. You underestimate the Dark City's size and its resilience. It has survived thousands of disjunctions and will survive thousands more to live on as fuel for your nightmares. This new information about a pact combined with the astro observation data collected in the star system resolves in the inconsistencies identified earlier. Unit Xavier Calxar stands accused of stealing the astrographic records of the Cognizance fleet. I'm amazed by your analytical prowess. Yes, I needed stars to feed the shard, so he was stealing shards. Stars, not shards. Stars. We literally lost worlds. Entire worlds. Because of this man. How many lives were lost? It all boils down to, I like it that in the beginning when you first play this game, you don't realize that Calcazar is the big bad. Like, you kind of start to suspect that there's something off about him, but the fact that he is the true big bad at the end of the day is fantastic. The Cabal of the Reaving Tempest could steal them and bring them here, but it was imperative to preserve the exact energy parameters so as not to trigger the object's premature detonation. I procured the necessary information on suitable stars for the Explorator from the Explorator Fleet's data scriptorium. Registering a Category 1 blasphemy, Unit Xavier Calcazar is hereby sentenced to intravatable dissection and study. Upon cessation of vital functions, the unit's remains must be disposed of in disgrace. The denizens of the Rakad system, Sansal's Pride, and all the other starless worlds, you were the one who sentenced them to death by sending the Drakari after their sons. Well noted, yes. I acted as their executioner, as regrettable as those losses were. However, to overestimate their importance to the Imperium would have been folly. Every single day, humanity pays a far more terrible price, and that must be brought to an end. And then I take it you thought to get rid of your Xenos allies? There was no more need for them, seeing as the yoke was almost complete and the situation was escalating out of control. Theodora was dead, the cult of the Final Dawn had reared its head and was preparing to strike. Yemris had forgotten her place, she was putting forward too many elimination requests. And when I told her to curb her appetite, she retaliated. The theft of the Rakad star was timed to occur when Master Van Calix would be on the planet. The Archon wanted to rob me of one of my agents and send a message. And then the Koronus Expanse was engulfed in flame. I had to rush the operation and declare the sector-wide martial law. The webway gate that Yemris' warriors had been using was destroyed, and the facility on Questa Tamer razed. I evacuated half of the yoke that Trevantius had completed, but was too late to retrieve the second half from Euphrates too. Cubus Delphim revealed to Eurylon the Cruel where he should strike, and that almost spelt the end of the Operation Precious Sentinel. I appreciate your efforts in resolving this problem. In fact, you turned out to be much more useful than Theodora ever was. Why'd you call the Astartes to come save you? I needed a remarkably strong force to keep my Xenos allies in check. The Emperor's Angels were just the weapon I was looking for, except... Considering the sensitive nature of my operation, I couldn't very well risk requesting aid from my allies in the Death Watch, could I? And then I remembered an old debt owed to me by a Space Wolves great company, so I decided to call in a favor. They were an asset at first. The Wolves helped me close the Dimensional Gate by overwhelming its security system. I tasked them with hunting Xenos condemned by Yemris. But eventually, they started prying, and that was unacceptable. I could control Thorvald by giving him more tempting targets, but the Baleful Howl Pack. They raided an outpost where my agents had been meeting with Drakari. The pack took prisoners, but lost the esteemed brother Alfar. I hoped they would give their all to search, but instead the wolves forced this system's coordinates out of the captives and came crashing down on my head. They had no gate to transport them. They used nothing but their warp engines. Thankfully, they realized their situation too late, so Tanika managed to neutralize them. You've come so far in pursuit of answers, Tessera. It would be cruel to leave your curiosity unsatisfied. Seeing as the inhabitants of this place almost killed you, I gather that something went wrong with this plan. Not at all. Operation Precious Sentinel is in its final stages. The increase in Xenos activity is a vexing yet trivial development in the grand scheme of things. They were supposed to guard the device, but they slept through the intrusion, and only the Satan Shard's emanations could make them stir. Theodora's research destabilized the Shard's prison, and my project only made it worse. Whenever particles of the Shard's energy seep out, many curious phenomena occur. The destruction of the crypt, the warped reality. When I tame the monster, I will order it to stop disrupting the laws of the universe. And that brings us to the most interesting part of our conversation. You know my plan, so now I want to know yours. Will you admit that I am in the right and join me in this undeniably ambitious act? Or are you trying to stop me? I'll be upfront with you. If it's the latter, I'll be forced to remove you, but I'm sure you realize that already. That's the second time you threatened the Lord Captain. Listen to yourself. What you're planning is heresy. Enough, Tessera. It will only be heresy if I lose. If I prevail, it will be a triumphant feat in the name of saving humanity from the horrors of this universe. And I will not lose. I will not let you bring this insane plan to fruition. The Inquisitor nods calmly. There is not a shred of hatred or disappointment on his face. Farewell, then. I'm glad to have made your acquaintance, Tessera, despite everything. He glances at his retinue. Eliminate the rogue traitor.